Who is the head of my household? Who is subject? My wife subject to me? You don't know my wife. Me subject to her? You don't know me. What does he mean with submit? It's difficult. And it's about to get worse. Wives, be subject to your husbands as you are to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, just as Christ is the head of the church, and the body of which he is the Savior. Just as the church is subject to Christ, so also wives ought to be in everything to their husbands. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, in order to make her holy by cleansing her with the washing of water by the word, so as to present the church to himself in splendor, without a spot or wrinkle or anything of the kind. Yes, so that she may be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as they do their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hates his own body, but he nourishes and tenderly cares for it, just as Christ does for the church, because we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a great mystery, and I am applying it to Christ and the church. Each of you, however, should love his wife as himself, and a wife should respect her husband. There you go. I'm not Paul. I'm not Paul, and Paul's not married. So because of that, because it's a mystery, because it's hard to express all that, there are going to be missteps. It's not like Paul has spent the last couple of years studying marriages and relationships and then brought that to his faith. No, as his faith is emerging and as he's trying to express it to people, he is using this as a convenient metaphor. Women in his society were not meant to attract attention to themselves. Women were in charge and filled with authority within the home, right? Within the oikos, in the house. Men's authority was outside in the polis, in the city, in the gathering. And women were running households with many children and people working out of the household. And in fact, their job was every bit as complex and nuanced as the ones sitting out in the polis. But as a whole, I don't think that the imbalance was there, the same imbalance is there that is with us today if we try to apply the same words. However, he does say, for the husband is the head of the wife, just as Christ is the head of the church. We can't vote down Jesus. As I said, I wonder if he ever lived as a husband in a household to understand the nuances of what he is saying. My grandmother was Mrs. Bruce Seeley. She wasn't Mrs. Dorothy Seeley. She was Mrs. Bruce Seeley. She took his name. So we've kept that idea of this identification, this authority. So that was true then. It's true now. But I would say that what Paul really wants to say in this, wives, belong to your husbands. But I think he's also saying husbands belong to your wives. So the church and Christ belong to each other. Be subject to your husbands as you are to the Lord. It doesn't mean that women should treat their husbands like God. It means that they should belong to each other in the same way that we belong to God. You don't have side gods, right? There's nothing on the down low. We're all in this together, right? I know, wasn't that so hip and cool of me? Husbands were absolutely subject to their wives within the household. I mean, we can watch all the 50s TV we want, but in those days, you ate when she said it was time to eat. And you got up and you did your work and your things as fit her schedule. She was very much in charge of the oikos, in charge of the house. That was what she did. So in that house, you were subject to her. As soon as you get married, you should treat your husband like God. It's not what he's saying. He's not saying, women, once you are married, your body belongs to your husband. Mutual belonging. I honestly believe that's what Paul's after. But that might just be because, on the face of it, I find Paul's words very difficult.